Good evening and welcome. It is a wonderful Monday night, and we are so thankful for you taking time out of your night to come join all of us. It definitely makes things go much better when we have people that are there, right? Because if we don't, then it gets really kind of weird. And Cubbie and I are like kind of looking at each other, and he starts like right, like raising his eyebrows, and I get a little scared. So we brought Michael on to come and join us tonight because Cubbie started doing that, and I was like, no, we're not having one of those shows again. Like the last time, it was, yeah, there he goes. There he goes. We just went from a G rating to PG. Oh man, that was scary. Anyway, thank you very much. Those of you that are checking in from YouTube land, thank you very much. That's where all the chat that we're going to watch tonight. So if you are watching this on one of the Facebook channels that this gets streamed to, I will never get your question. So go over to YouTube, youtube.com/disc jockey news. And that is our site or the link for the video tonight. And we will be checking out the stuff there. But so here's the deal. Michael and I, we had the pleasure of running into each other and standing beside each other, waiting in a line for a door that took forever and a day to open at DJX this past year. And we just got chatting, and I love the conversation that we started having. And Michael has tuned into some different stuff that we've done here at DJN. And so he has a passion for lighting. I think that's the easiest way that I can put it. But, and I'm going to preface this because and hopefully this will come through tonight. If it doesn't, then I'm going to smack you upside the head. Not Michael, but you. Is that his passion is about kind of realistic, right? Nothing to knock some of the lighting presentations we've had out there and that we've seen, but it almost feels like you have to have like a $40,000 budget for lights alone. And then you get a client who's going to spend $100,000 on you. And then you can do the type of stuff that you've seen. That's not here, right? That's now Michael gets a client that's going to do that. He's not going to say no, but for the average client, it's going to be something a little bit more reasonable. And I think that's tonight. One of the great things that we're going to end up seeing is that a lot of the conversation is going to be around stuff that you, me, we can all put into some good practice, whether you're only been in this for a short time and you're wanting to take it to the next step or something maybe in between. So I said that. Whew, now to say, Michael, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Dan.
So give us a little background. Who are you? Obviously we got your name there, but who are you? Where are you from? And give a shout out for your business, obviously, while we're at it too.
Sure. So I'm Michael Kennedy. I'm come out of Portland, Maine, and Maine's been in the news a little bit lately. Everything's kind of settled down, and everybody's being supportive, and that's great. I've been in this business for about 20 years now, a little more than 20 years, I think. I started out when I came back from the military. I had nothing to do. My brother was a club DJ, so I was kind of hanging out with him, and clubs in Portland are not that big. And I started tinkering with the lighting systems because all the clubs, the lighting systems are horrible. So I'd just like replace some bulbs, re-aim some lights. I'm like, oh, that looks horrible. Just re-aim that. And it was kind of at a time before laptops and computers. Everything was done Show Express or very easy, just push some buttons. And a lot of DJs today still say, and I don't disagree with them, some of the stuff's pretty confusing the way they set it up. And I started doing that, and intelligent lights came out and started to become a little bit affordable. And I got trained up in lightweight research and a few other Martin products. And some bands came through, and it was kind of the perfect opportunity. I got to meet up with a few well-known alt-rock bands through the 90s and do some work with them. Get some funny photos of me with the long hair with the bands and stuff. I should go run and grab one out of the living room there. And my wife's like, who are they? I got done, and what everybody does, I became a high school teacher, like Dan. We have that in common. And the drama teacher wrote me in really quick, found out I knew how to do lighting, and wanted me to help out. So I started helping out, and the auditorium needed a lot of work. So we fundraised $100,000, started renovating the place. I went to the local lighting company, and the lighting company said, hey, Michael, we need you to do us a favor. What's that? We need you to do some weddings. Get out of here, do weddings. No, your brother knows how to DJ. You know how to mix. You used to cover for him. We got all these brides that want uplighting. Now, this is early 2000s, late 99, early 2000s-ish, before it was all LED, right? And oh no, they'll pay like crazy. He was right. So I got it in the head of the curve and was able to lead that on a very low budget sort of thing. Teaching is my priority, and this job is a great supplement. It's a nice side business, and quite frankly, I don't want giant events. I don't want to go do a $50,000 event. You mentioned that at the beginning. You know, I know where my limitations are, and I know what jobs require for labor, and there's a cutoff point for me, and I'm just going to farm it out to the local lighting companies. I'm going to give it back to them, and I'm sure they'll give me back something in return. So now I run MRK Entertainment, and I'm a solo op. I try to do everything myself. I try to get help where I can, but help is hard to find. Good help is really hard to find. And when I get it, I appreciate it. It's awesome to have. But it's one of those things. I've trained a few guys, and now they're sort of off their own, doing their own thing, which is great, good for them. And then we sort of ran into each other some 20 years later.
So one of the things that hopefully that you picked up from there is, you know, this also Michael's not going out with a big crew, right? And I think that's also some of the things that, you know, is sometimes a deterrent for DJs who are wanting to up their lighting game is, well, now I'm going to have to get an assistant, and I don't know if I have that yet, and yet I can't, you know, one of those trade-offs, right? Like I can't go real big if I don't have the assistant. I can't pay for the assistant if I don't go real big. Like they just get in that cyclic type of problem. So, you know, hear that fact that he's, you know, this ideas that he's going to have one man or one woman show could go out and potentially replicate this with, you know, some smart thinking behind it. So one of the directions that I wanted to go with, and we got talking about this a little bit yesterday, and I trying to look back to my notes of where I said, like, oh, this was the idea that I said let's start at. Where was that at? Yeah, you gave me all your notes. There we go. Now I find it, because all the stuff there was all your notes. Okay. So one of the things that I kind of wanted to go is you mentioned about how you started with that lighting company who reached out and, you know, kind of got things started. Is there ever a point where, I don't want to say lighting wasn't important, but where you started saying, okay, I'm going to, for lack of better terms, not worry about that side and focus more on the DJing? Did you ever kind of turn that focus away and then have to come back to it?
Sure. I mean, when I started out, it was a lot of crossfading DJing, but early 2000s, that's what most DJs were doing, because it was still CDs back then. I think, what was it, the Denon, I want to say it was like a 32 or 3800. They were moving platter, big, heavy, like tank CD players. Remember those things? Not Denon. Was it Denon? Oh, I think it was Denon. Yeah. I got those, and you know, we were burning CDs and stuff. So the guys who were actually able to loop back then, I mean, this is before Serato, right? And Serato was in Scratch Live at the time, and I jumped on Scratch Live early. So yeah, I had to kind of take a break from lighting and really try to focus on the music. And that's really my priority right now, is I'm taking a couple other courses. I'm reaching out to some friends of mine that are DJs to try to learn a little bit more. And that's actually a goal this year, is to really master some of the mixes and get those out there.
Okay. So
because they do go hand in hand, right? One of the things I'm going to bring up here is when we talk about an event, and we talk about, you hear DJs say this all the time, Bun, Jani, all these big name guys, the experience, right? If you're going to talk about an experience, this is where the theatrical in the concert piece background of mine comes in, is how do you create an experience? It's more than just sound. It's more than just music choice. It's a combination of the right things at the right time, create that unique experience.
So let's kind of take or go down that path then, right? So you start to have an idea. Where do you feel in your experience and stuff begins that process for building that experience for you as the entertainment company?
For building an experience?
Yeah.
So it's understanding what parts of the experience you don't understand, right? It's all about what you don't know. And then in acknowledging this is a weakness and this is the area I need to focus on. And then being realistic about starting with that focus. And there's a lot of parts, and I'm primarily a wedding DJ. So I'll put that out there. That's probably 90% of what I do. I do a few Christmas parties and specialty parties here and there, but I'm really just not interested in getting off the couch for a few $100s. I mean, from time to time, if it's a connection, I'll do it. But otherwise, it's a wedding. And trying to create that experience, you have to put on a lens as a guest or as a bride as to what that experience should look like. We as DJs are a bit of gearheads. That show, DJX, was a great, like that would make my wife vomit, that show, right? And a lot of wives, probably the same thing. We went in there, oh, look at all this stuff. But we get carried away with that stuff, right? Because they're trying to create an experience. It's an overwhelming experience when you come in. So there's moments in a wedding that I'm trying to create, and sometimes the focus is really the music, and sometimes the focus is the lighting, or I use the lighting or the sound or even the MC skills to redirect people's attention to different parts of the stage. You're going to hear me saying a lot of like theatrical terms, and I use that with my clients. I actually use it in the planning process. I can give you some of those nuggets and see if you take them away.
Sure. So then where, so not obviously focusing on the gear, but you said what are give us some examples of some of the things, the specific pieces that you do to kind of put those focuses on different places.
Okay. So if we're gonna pick some, let's just start with the reception, and we can kind of backwards plan, or dinner. Dinner works well too. Your setup, whatever it is, it doesn't have to. You've seen my setup. You know that it's one of the fans. I've custom built the booth. It's really beautiful. It's like a horror board. It's very similar. I'm always looking to improve that. But the setup, in my opinion, at a wedding should blend into the environment. It should not be a distraction from what's going on. If you look totally different than what's in there, you probably want to rethink what you're doing. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. And sometimes I get a bride and she's like, oh, I want an EDM show. I want lasers. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the generalities. And the vast majority of my clients are usually stunned when they walk in because they don't realize I'm actually set up and the place is gorgeous. And with the flick of a switch, that's the control of the lighting and the sound and the old trick of the bass spins. I always keep my bass a little bit lower until after dinner, and then I crank it up. Those who worked in the club scene know that trick. And I elevate each moment in each experience because I want to build throughout the night and end with a great big party at the end, because that's what people remember when they leave. And that's why club people save the biggest bangers for the end of the night and shut off the lights, because they want people to go, oh, that was the greatest thing in the world, not the wet blanket effect, right? That you just bring everything down, because that's what people remember. So I'll use lighting to accent different things. Now, with lighting, without getting super geeky on you and technical, because we'd probably want Ben to be on that show too, right? But with lighting, there's three main types of lights. Everything sort of falls in this world of one of three things. There's a wash light, there's a projection light, and that includes like monograms, graphics, gobos, breakups. And then there's an aerial light. So those are your lasers. Those are sometimes you hear DJs complaining, oh, I'd bring my moving heads, but they won't let me use fog or haze, so they won't see the beams. Well, if all you're using your moving heads for is beams, you got the wrong idea what moving heads are. That's mistake number one. You need to take a step back and figure out, for me, anything I bring has to have more than one purpose. I don't bring things that are usually solo purpose, with the exception being a CO2 gun or a confetti cannon or something. Those are unique pieces. So everything has to be multi-purpose. So the uplights, the moving heads, I recently got the pixel tubes, and I tried all of them. I tried a stereo tubes, and I ended up sticking with the both tubes. Rick has been super supportive with that. And they work. They work for what I want. And I need a good ROI, right? I love the stereo tubes, but at that price cost, it takes too long to recoup them.
I'm glad you said that, because I will say this. I have looked online for any kind of review I can have of something comparing even just something with like actual comparison. And so it's good to know that somebody that's tried both or tried all of them to be able to go, okay, now I can hear from something like that. Sorry, I digress.
Yeah.
You said that
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm jumping.
And I'm not here marketing anybody. I mean,
No,
they all have benefits and drawbacks. Some people will swear by the Astera tubes, and some people will swear by. And then there's people who are like, I can't do anything that's not a big brand name. I get it. I get it. And I feel comfortable. Like, for me, it's something like a moving head. It's got to be a good quality. I won't buy a cheap moving head because it goes down. It can ruin the show. Like, you could always unplug it, but then you look weird with one moving head off to the side, right? Unless you got like 6 of them running. But if it starts going all wonky on you, that can absolutely ruin a show. But if one uplight starts acting weird, cool, go shut it off. Nobody will notice the difference of one light. I see oftentimes in these events that DJs try to just saturate the room in the color like this, right? And I actually use that to my advantage when I'm talking to my clients, and I'm like, listen, hey, nobody wants to eat pink chicken for 2 reasons, right? A, they just don't want to be pink. B, they don't want to eat pink chicken. It looks gross when you're sitting at a table. So that's a great example of a DJ ruining an experience. The experience is dinner. So I would never advise you turning up your up lights all the way to the max unless you can individually light every single table and you can keep that moment, that experience that they're expecting, right? That dinner sort of experience. My recommendation is normally keep your up lights at like 10 or 15% during dinner. Actually bring them down during dinner slowly. If you can use something like, this is where Sound Switch doesn't do. I like Sound Switch; it's a cool program, but it struggles to do this. That is to put in a gradual change, like a 10-minute fade. It's very slick when you put that in there, and 10 minutes later the lights look different. Nobody knows they changed. It's hard to pull that off in something like these instant programs, but the good quality programs can do it.
So since we're talking about programs, Michael, what program? It sounds like you're well versed in a lot of them. Mm-hmm. Which one do you use a majority of the time?
The majority of the time, well, the past year, I've really tried to use Show Express. I'm sorry, Sound Switch. I've been using Show Express for quite a while. I got the the Sound Switch one there, Control One, mm-hmm. Since I have a custom console, I built it right in to match, to be all seamless and flush and everything masked in white. Please remind me of the white thing because there's another reason for it. And I really wanted that to work. I think I'm leaving it because what I find with Sound Switch, it is fine if it's just a party. If all you're doing is going in there and you're going to play a certain number of tracks and you don't want to program and you want the lights to be able to be crazy and be wild and have some pre-programmed functions, great. That's a perfect unit. It is not good when it comes time to doing like changing between a father and daughter dance or the first dance, bringing the lights down outside, having the movers turn and come up on the dance floor and switch over to a frost and wash the floor. Like it can't do it. I've tried to do it in every which way I can, but really what I got to do is I got to go in and program the individual song for that client. And then I got to remember to delete it out after, or else I go to another event, throw it on, and all of a sudden the lights are right. So learn by experience. So I would say before I get into like all the programs and stuff, what I'm talking about tonight, I'm not even talking about having to use like Show Express. Show Express is sort of, I think, an intermediate level. On the beginner level, what I'd really like people to focus on and be aware of is what are the types of lighting I'm doing and how is that accenting the vision of the couple, not making me feel like I'm the cool big DJ standing behind the decks. In all fairness, people don't care who's behind there. Like, unless you're a big national name, people they just want a clean mix, they want clean announcements, and they want some ambiance, right? But if I see another photo out there of a beautiful venue and somebody ruins it with these tacky gobos and Mr. and Mrs. this projected all over the wall, don't do that, people. Don't buy the hearts. Don't buy, that screams Spencer's gifts. Sorry, Spencer's, but that screams like high school, like prom.
Yeah, there was a picture you shared with me, and I won't share it just in case it happens.
Yeah, out of fairness to DJs, right? I don't want to single out
but
any.
It was pretty bad because it was
gorgeous.
There was no placement behind, or thinking it really seemed behind where things were posted. It was, or where the light was hitting, and it was, yeah, it was just not smart. So let's kind of, I guess let's back this up a little bit, because you got me kind of thinking a little bit about the process that leads to that description that you talked about, right? Like, because you said that they're focusing on more of that beginner piece and how you build what you do. I think it's important to understand how you even have that conversation, because I think for a lot of us, having that conversation with the couples is kind of, I don't want to say difficult, but it's the process that kind of is confusing. Like you said, we're gearheads, right? So we think about the gear, and we think about trying to get them to buy the gear, aka rent it, whatever, from us, so that we use it, rather than trying to get them to picture some vision that they have. So at what point in the process do you start creating this discussion, or even planting the seed for the discussion of how to then create something for them?
Yeah. So let me just, full disclosure, because we did talk about this yesterday. We talking back and forth. I just won't do an event without the lighting. Like, I just won't do it. Like, I tell people that here's my base price, and it's not cheap, but nothing I'm gonna do is gonna be cheap. It's gonna be worthwhile. If you don't want it, it's cool. I'm gonna be booked solid. I'm comfortable for the year. I'll go to somebody else. But I understand some people are doing this rustic barn. They just want the music. They don't want any lights at all. Cool. And if you're a DJ that's fine with that, go for it. Right. So I don't go to people kind of piecemealing them and trying to upsell with lighting. I just price my package up here. And I say, if you don't want up lighting because you want Italian bistro lights and that's what you want, that's the look. Cool. I'll leave them in the trailer. The price doesn't change. Right. I'm going to create the experience for you. You want an Italian bistro feel? We're going to create an Italian bistro feel together. And I'm going to offer you what I can do with what I have. And then if it's something else beyond that, then we talk about an upcharge. But how do I get them to think about lighting? I try to get them to talk to me prior to booking about what they expect for their experience. And usually this is usually one of the first things that gets them excited. Is a lot of DJs don't ask that. Like, what is it? What is your vision for your day? Like, some DJs will, hey, what do you plan on doing? Oh, we're going to have barn wedding. Cool. So describe that to me. What would that be like? Like, is it just sunny and the doors are open? Is it in the evening? Is it cool and crisp outside? Give me some adjectives. Give me some adverbs to describe it. And then as they're sort of telling me that, now I can start to suggest things to them. So we talked about, it's not that clients don't want lighting. It's just they don't want the lighting they've seen before. And they've seen some pretty bad stuff. So lasers going off during a first dance. I mean, I ask people that question too. What weddings have you been to and what has not worked? What have you seen and you just made you cringe? Like, I want to know. I want to get inside your mind. And I also want to know what was the cool things that were done at the weddings. And sometimes they give you other people's gems, which is awesome. But hey, I went at this wedding and this DJ did this thing. Like for me, I bring the bride up into a mix because I got the beautiful setup all there, and I bring her up. She's in a white dress, white headphones, chrome headphones. I let the photographers know. I let the videographers know. I have lighting already set up, so she's well lit. Those are money shots, right? So as a beginner, you're going to have to be creative with a few of these things and get that media, even if you have to pay for somebody to film it. Because once you get it and you can show people examples, and I go record everything in multiple GoPros. We talked about that too. I got terabytes of that data. And then a client says to me, hey, I want to go to this venue. I said, great. Okay, let's go look at an event I did. Oh, it was back in May. This is all unedited. And I scroll through, I scrub through the video right there with them on a Zoom call. And say, okay, here's what it looks like. Wow. And boom, sold. Did I get a sidetrack there? Sorry if I did there.
Okay. No, actually, you definitely helped with that. So I think that also kind of paints the picture, because there is a different mentality, I think, behind what you just pulled out, which was this is my price, and you get like the kitchen sink. And I even remember Alan Berg kind of talking about this one time, and he focused it more on like your fall weddings where you're going to be booked no matter what. Like there's like, at least for us, like October, if you're not booked for a wedding in October, like something went wrong, right? Unless you're in some kind of weird area. And so his philosophy was, you book your price that includes everything. So you get that. And if they decide that they don't want everything, well, then that's on them, but they're going to pay it because that's what you get. So by having that, you've also then by doing that for all of your events, you remove what is potentially one of the big obstacles for a lot of couples, which is, well, I don't know if I want to pay extra for that.
Right.
I don't know if I want to, I don't know if I want to, we can do without that because, it's an extra $500, whatever it might be. And because they don't have a concept of the experience, their concept of the experience is Joe Schmo who put, ugly gobos on their faces during their first dance. Yeah.
Yeah. So using those principles, the wash, projection, and aerial, for the most part, aerials are not really something you're going to use except maybe during the dance portion. There's some pretty rare moments where it would be appropriate, but I would just say for beginners, I'd stay away from anything aerial. In aerial are those what I like to call spin and pukes. They just spin and throw light all over the place. Let's cover that right now. If your fixtures that you're thinking about buying are less than $500, for the most part, with a few exceptions, what we were just talking about, those QN1s, they're right around like $400 something. You should probably be having a second thought about what you're buying. Because there's not very many lights out there that will be hex lights and actually be able to do a good color temperature change. Because even on a hex light, it's not a true color temperature change. You're kind of playing with it by using some amber and a little bit of green. But I mean, you get to the high end stuff, we're dealing with lime and all that, and it's awesome. CTO filters. But I would say for beginners, just a couple pars is all you need. And you aim those out as a wash, not directly on the dance floor, not directly at the dinner tables, but at the ceiling. If you can get them far enough back, you can put them on the dance floor so it kind of fizzles out as it gets to the tables. And if you don't have the money for movers and stuff, you can go get two 3200 Kelvin. 30, for those who don't know, it's the color temperature, right? We've got the warm light that we all love, that sort of yellowy light. Lean towards that with weddings, because all these moving heads are usually 5200 and above, and they're designed for high impact. That's not what you want for a wedding. But you just get two gobo projectors with a couple breakups, and if you don't know what that is, just Google. It's just a gobo. Put it in, fuzz it out a little bit, put it on the dance floor, create a texture, because what you're doing is you're creating a focal point. In theater, what we do is we move the audience's attention around the stage by putting a light on it. So a bride once said to me, I have a wedding and it's in the basement of this Irish church, old Irish Catholic church. I'm like, yeah, there's poles everywhere. Okay. He goes, I think I should put Christmas lights on them. Do you think I should put Christmas lights on them? And I said, if you want people to see those poles, absolutely put Christmas lights on them. And she said, well, no, I don't want them to see the poles. I said, then don't put Christmas lights on them, because I guarantee you they're going to see them if you wrap them in Christmas lights. Well, what do I put on them? Fabric. What do you mean? So what color is the basement? White. Hang white fabric. Are you kidding? I'm like, I'm not kidding. This is what we do in theater. We drape stuff and we mask stuff, okay? With usually it's black, because in theater you want that illusion of darkness, right? But in weddings, remember I said my setup's white. At weddings, it's generally white. Whether you're in a tent, I've never seen a black tent. I'm sure they exist, but I've never been in DJing in one. I've been in a few venues that have black venues, but I want to blend into the environment and then highlight specific things I want guests to see. I don't want to go in and I look completely different than the rest of this stuff in the venue. I look like an eyesore. I know I got it right, not because of the clients, but because of the other vendors. When the venue manager or the photographer is there, the bride hasn't even come in, the photographer's taking pictures of my kit, I know I've done something right. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Just reinforced everything I'm doing. I appreciate it. So I use that theater piece, Dan, right? Or a concert piece, if you want to say a concert piece too. It's a little less dramatic. It can be a little more crazy with the lighting. but you bring focus with lighting where you want the focus to be. You tune it back where you don't want the focus to be. So when I go into a venue and I see a fireplace, teaching, I'm going after that fireplace to light that thing up. I'm going to be putting up lights on. I'm going to be using mostly ambers or whites, preferably the 3200. If I can in any way, I always put the monogram right on the fireplace. It does an amazing, people don't expect it, and they come in and it's a big wow factor. But I'm just taking the highlights of the venue and accessing them, accentuating them in a way to pop even more. Does it make sense?
It does. It does.
Sort of like a spotlight on a stage.
So let's kind of, you started down the path of like, you know, if we're new and Cubbie, you know, coming from multi-op, this, you know, also kind of folds into this a little bit. The idea of if we're going to build, like I'm going to assume if Cubbie's going to start building this out for his crew, he's not going to be able to just suddenly drop, you know, a ton of money for everybody to have all of the stuff at once. So where becomes, you know, what, I guess for lack of better terms, almost like an order of importance. Like if I was starting this, we'll say from scratch, because I'll be honest, my lighting sucks. There's no way around. My uplighting's good, but beyond that, like, because I don't do pink chicken. Beyond that, like what is that kind of that process? Where do you think, where do we start? What would be your next go to, all the way kind of as you scale?
Right. This has changed in recent years. Because I would say on the projection piece, I would probably include the eye candy sort of stuff. So that's where pixel tubes kind of come in. Pixel tubes are cool because they play two roles. They're good for a wash lighting, but they're also good for a projected, technically the tube itself is the projected surface that you're watching, you know, the patterns and that sort of thing. No different than you would watch a pattern scroll on a wall or something like that. Always start with a couple wash lights. I would invest in decent, good wash lights. Nowadays, I would say don't go with anything that's not battery powered for setup time, simplicity. I remember years of crawling around on my hands and knees with a few rolls of gaff tape per event. You know, gaff taping everything down and running hundreds of feet of cable. I still have buckets of cable. A couple good quality battery powered wash fixtures. You know, the 9 LED, you know, 10-watt diodes. I would start out with a pair of those. Soon to upgrade to maybe 4 of them, because 2 doesn't cover a whole lot. From there, I would go into a few uplights. You don't need to jump in and buy 30 uplights. It's not necessary. I would start out with simply maybe like 6 or 8 and just highlight key points in a venue. And what I mean by key points is columns that are decorated. Don't just put them every 10 feet. It looks like somebody just put a light every 10 feet. There's times I go in, I've got 30 uplights and I'll use 22 of them because there's not 30 things I want. Just because I have a light doesn't mean I need to put it on the floor and light it. Same thing with the pixel tubes. I prefer to use them in sets of 3, do the little feng shui thing. I don't know. It gives me good vibes. I like to do pairs of 3 because I've learned that from decorators. They kind of do sets of 3s. It's sort of a decorating thing. From there, I would either go from the uplights, either pixel tubes or movers. Now, I would say if you're not interested in really learning to DMX stuff, I would go to the pixel tube. Because the pixel tubes generally have enough programs in them, you can put it on like the soft white tickering, you know, to make a nice ambiance, but not distraction. And then the moment the party kicks off, you can flick them over to sound active and away you go. And then from there, I think is when you go into the mover world is when you start to go into, you need to be able to control that mover. It's sort of like getting a really fast motorcycle or car. Everybody wants one, but there's a certain way you got to drive those things. And if you don't, you're going to hurt yourself. It's the same thing with a mover. I would stay away from any mover that's below like, I mean, I hate to stick a dollar figure on it, below $1,000, because they're just silly. I've not seen a DJ who's done a cool light show with those little tiny, you know, one of the little duo things. And I think Gig Bar Move has them. I mean, I get what those are. There's a function for those for like a birthday party or, you know, a small backyard party or something. Those are not meant for weddings. If that's what you have, I would actually just go take everything off except for the wash lights. Just take them off. You don't
But I
need
think
derbies.
for a lot of them it becomes that ease. I think for, one of the things that becomes also a potential issue is um the speed of setup, the speed of teardown. When especially when you have venues that are like, all right, we finished. You mean you're not out of here yet? It's been 30 seconds. Like, come on. I think for some that becomes the piece to it. Or also just kind of, for like, I don't want to say ignorance, but just it gives you the wash, it gives you the mover, it gives you, maybe not to the level
Yep.
it should, but it gives you the pieces. And so it's like, well, I need to have these pieces, and so here's a thing that gives it to me in one. Um, so yeah, I get why some people do it. But yeah, I've also heard of others that, for example, John has talked about his where he took off whatever it is, the stuff that's on the top. I can't remember the name
The
of it.
derbies or the lasers.
Yeah, the derbies of some sort. So he has the wash. He has the wash specs. He has the the moving heads, and then he has his laser, but he points a laser at the ceiling to, if nothing else, only turns it on when he needs to distract a little kid.
Oh, okay.
That's what
I'll give him a thumbs up on that one. I'm not going to knock John, right?
right, right.
So you bring up a great point, right? If you want attention, put a light on it. What are you trying to draw our attention to? That would be the question. Like when you're looking at your set and you're sitting there, oh, my set looks cool, man. What is it you want people to see specifically? There should be a focal point. So in theater, when you light the stage, every part of the stage may be at a different intensity. And it's by design. And it's by design to move the light across the stage to move your attention. How are you doing that at an event? What do you want people to see and notice when they come in? Now, we were talking right before the show. I got these what are they? The QN1s, right?
Yep.
That would probably be the third thing. If you didn't want to go to movers, go to any kind of fixture like this. I like these because they have warm white in them. So they got the warm white diode. They're RGB. They're wireless. They're battery powered. They have the big heavy magnet. There's two of them I put up there. I don't have any lighting out here. I have a cheap $20 light and two of these, and I'm well lit, right? And Dan actually watched me put these up right before the video, and it took like what, a minute, Dan?
If that,
So,
yeah.
I actually do this when I DJ. I put two of these on me, and I control them. So when I'm making an announcement, I'm lit. And when I'm not, it dim it down, but I can still see my console. Because I see a lot of DJs, they're DJing, and where's my thing here, right? Who's the DJ? Now, in a nightclub, that's what it is. But actually, I find at a venue, at a wedding, people really appreciate being able to come up to you and see what you're doing. When they see you mixing and they see you using the tools, they have no idea what you're doing. But they see you doing it. It's entertainment for them. That's why I ditched the facades. I don't do any facades or anything. Now, I do mask things. So going back to when I said my setup is white, because most of the venues I go to tend to be white, I carry white cloth with me. And usually what I do is carry extra scrims for like the totems, the collapsible totems. And I don't use tripods. I use gravity stands now because it cleans up the look. I don't want people seeing speakers and stands. I want that stuff to disappear. But anything I have, like my cooler, all I do is drape a white cloth over it. And because my setup's white, nobody sees the cooler in the background. Nobody sees all that stuff. And this is where the wiring is important too. All right, we hear this all the time. There's all these comments. Cable management, right? Somebody will say it on every photo. Look, the guy needs cable management. And so I sent two photos last night. One of them of a circuit panel, just a messy amount of wires. And then another one with the beautiful 90-degree wires and everything labeled. There's a difference. And people don't know what it is, but they look at you and they can tell. So that stuff as a beginner DJ, I would focus on that.
We're going to share. So this is kind of, it's not exactly, so I try and blow it up a little.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was a little one. I saw that.
That's right. Yeah. So that's the messy one.
Would you pay somebody $2,000 to do that?
Yeah, I hope not.
Right.
Hope not. But on that case,
Now,
there
do you
is
know
your
anything about electrical panels? I mean, I don't know everybody watching this video does, but most people are kind of like, yeah, I don't want to really play with it. But I think we can see the difference, right? We're not electricians, but it's quite obvious to us there's some cable management going on there.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not calling out any DJs, but that's the first thing probably people can do with those washes is go down and look at the cable management. How quickly can you set them up? I've seen some pretty crafty ideas where people have done them like on top of their speakers or underneath with an O clamp. So they come in right on the pole. So they don't have any setup but to turn them on, and they can use a remote. I would start out with that. And then I would gravitate to, I think if you're not using movers, I would either stick to the remotes or you could go to like SoundSwitch. If you're going to invest in the good movers, then I would consider getting into like Show Express. And there's plenty of programs out there. I know Darren Fields has his programming thing on Show Express, and there's a couple others out there for the ADJ stuff. Nobody needs to go learn Grandmaster. I would love to have one in a wedding, but it would just take up the whole space. I'd be on that thing the whole time. But yeah, I would focus on using those few lights that you have, really think about aiming them, highlighting specific things. And look, if you have movers that are nice, let's say like a Chauvet Intimidator Spot 350, I think it's 350. Yeah. Nice fixture, has prisms. What I would suggest you do with that fixture, and I shared this with you the other day too, go to Apollo or go to your local lighting company and ask them for a color temperature changing gel. You don't even know that. I can look up the number and give you the number if you want it. But it looks like an orange gel. And you can cut that out and put it right on the front of your fixture. Now, it will tweak the colors like the reds and the greens and the blues and that sort of thing. You're not color mixing anyway, so don't worry about that. But it will change that hot temperature to a warmer white. So you got a cheap fixture, but you're sort of imitating. And now you can take the front focal lens, fuzz it out a little bit. You do it manually. And then you put it down on the dance floor and you create a pattern and a texture over the dance floor. And then that creates wow factor. That draws people attention to, oh, there's a dance floor right there. I can't wait to get on that. So it's a little trick with what they got.
Pictures of some of your setups, and when you go back to your pricing, and you don't have to tell me what your price is, but you throw in, like you said, you take 30 uplights, but you may use 22. What you're promoting is the experience, right? So no matter what they try, you're going to do whatever the lighting it is, and hopefully Dan has some pictures or something that we can share. I just want to get a concept of here in the Midwest. We have unlimited packages and things of that nature, but not a lot of production or lighting that goes with it. It's like an additional. So I'd like to see. You've done really well explaining everything. I just want to see I'm a visual guy.
Yeah, I don't know, Dan, if you can pull some up on Instagram there.
Well, I've got. I mean, I was looking back in our chat that we've had, and so this is not.
That's the simple.
One of your simple pieces that you've shared with me, and then here's another kind of similar type of idea to that.
Oh, by the way, those that's actually my classroom. I lit my whole classroom too.
I like the wood grain on the white. I'm sorry about talking about your standard. We're doing lighting, but I like the wood grain on the white.
So that console is modeled after Hoverboard. I actually built that thing, and I've offered to build Dan one if he wanted one. And I went through and I painted those. I got a video. I haven't put it together yet, but I painted those both lighting stems white. And I've since bought the stands. I'm still on the fence on how I feel about the stands. I certainly don't want to trash them, but I think there's some work that probably should be done on those, because I found some. For me, that I like the idea. It's just the connection joints are not good. They take a long time to unscrew. They really should be a quarter turn lock to get them off. So what I do now is I actually don't take the stands down at all. I just leave them all together and carry them out that way. I just have learned that it's got to be more efficient and faster. I don't know, Dan, did I send you any of the bigger things?
I was looking for them, and I'm not.
You go to the main page of my website. There should be a photo right there on the top. that shows the tent and the monogram over the ceiling and stuff like that.
And I'm sorry, Michael. Like I said, I'm a visual guy, and you're. I just want to see some of this amazing stuff you do.
I was, yeah, most of the time when we were talking, I was looking for some of this. So you said on the main part of your webpage, or did you
On
say
the
your
main
Insta?
page, I think it should be one right at the top there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean,
Purple?
yep, sort of. I mean, it gives you the background.
Yeah. So the little lights in the background that you see, they're all lit.
Uh-huh.
Most of my clients are usually lit. In this case, I had 4 movers at that event. And this was outside, but you could see on the back there, the gobos. Now, those are the higher temperature ones I'm talking about. It's fine in that case because it's all lit up in the background and it's covering all the tent, and it's broken up. It's broken up with gobos, and then it's fuzzed out just slightly to create patterns across the tent. Don't do that if you can't do the whole tent, because otherwise it looks like a spot on the tent.
Just one place.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Are there other ones on here you want me to? Other ones on your site?
I don't, quite honestly, I'd have to look at my website to see where I actually put them.
Right. Yeah. I know. I get it. You haven't probably touched your website in a couple of weeks or years.
I touch it every January when everything's down to a dead stop and I start rebuilding.
I would also say check out. Oh wait, here's what I was looking for. It must have been on your Instagram stuff that I was seeing. So now this is a party that you did, but this is going to give kind of that same.
One of the we're looking at. Yeah.
This is the Saturday Night Fever, right? But you can see what he's talking about, right? Like there's focal on the dance floor. He does have, obviously the monogram showing. He's got moving heads that are focusing and doing some pattern, bringing all that focus, all that energy to that, getting those eyes looking in that one particular place.
I like it.
I look at that. I think, damn, I left that stool back there. This is one of the examples where the higher temperature white works because the floor is actually kind of dark. And the warm white won't stand out on that enough.
There was one other one that I love that you did.
Oh, the fireplace, perfect example.
Where's that at though?
Scroll down a little bit. The fireplace you down a little. There you go. Yep.
Oh yeah. Wow.
You see that? So you look at it at first, you don't see it. You look twice, and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute!" And then you see all the photographer stuff there.
Yeah. Love
now,
it.
if there's photographers watching, I don't bark at photographers about that. It's a thing. They don't have a place to put their stuff, and I know DJs get all bent about it, but I usually introduce myself to them, and when I do, I say, "Hey, I'm Michael. I don't have any green lasers," and they're thankful.
Yeah. And they talk to you.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of links from them this year. I got a feed through them of stuff that has been coming in. I sent you a few others, Dan, that shows sort of the spotlighting and stuff. I know they're in there.
And I don't know where. I'm trying to remember where. Like, there's the one that you sent me where even though you hated the monogram because it looked like it was off center, it was from where people were standing. But I don't know if I saw that in a group or if I saw it in the. I feel bad, everybody. I promise you, I am much more prepared normally than what we're seeing from us here. All right, here's
and I like the monogram on the fireplace, like you said. People don't expect to see it, but there it is right there. It was a really nice mod. I loved it.
Right. So this is a fall wedding. They did have an orange theme to it, so it's a little warmer than I would normally care to have, but you can see that people are walking by, and where's the focal point? The focal point is where the dancing's going to happen, right there on the dance floor. Right. You can tell where I am.
Yeah.
I don't have any of my lights on there yet. And this place is like, oh God, this building's like almost 200 years old.
Wow.
It used to be an old townhouse, like a town meeting hall.
Are those the lights on the ceiling, on the banister or whatever? Yours, those key waves?
No, those are just venue.
Okay.
Sconces. Yeah.
I didn't know if those are the magnetic.
That's the older one. I went back there again this year and I did a way better job. I brought some more lights for the fireplace this time, but this has an advantage because I could use the balcony and throw the monogram straight down. So perfect example of this. When the first dance happens, I always communicate with the photographers and videographers in advance. And Dan, freeze up on us.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. You're very still.
I'm looking. I was looking for more. I was looking for more because I know
Um,
you've shared them with me, but I can't.
I talked to the videographers and photographers before the special moments happen. I do not want a photo of the couple dancing with weird lights on the dress. So they're usually super appreciative because you have that conversation with them. And I would say that goes for almost anything you're throwing. I would have a conversation in advance and say, hey, what can I do to help you make your job easier? I don't want you to spend hours of video photo editing trying to get dots or some pattern out of her dress. I'll shut the stuff off. And I explained that to the couple in advance. I'll say, there may be a moment where I have to shut things off, but just know it's usually because I'm trying to work with your photographer and they're trying to capture a moment of you in your dress without any sort of color washing. And then there'll be times we turn it on. So just trust us to work together. I always approach the other vendors and try to see what I can do to help them. So gives you good media in the back end.
Absolutely. Well, I'm taking a look at the time, and so I'm going to basically want to ask you to kind of throw out if people are having more questions, because I'm sure somebody's got some questions here that we did not cover tonight. I know there was like one in the chat, and I was trying to understand what he meant, and unfortunately, I didn't quite understand DJ Rook. So, if they want to reach out to you, best way to do so, what would that be?
Probably at Instagram at MRKDJ, or they can reach me at Facebook, and email's fine too, dj@mrke.biz. Glad to help anybody. If they want me to look at their setup, if they want some advice and say, hey, these are the fixtures I got, what would you do with that? I'll give them the feedback. It's not a problem at all. Yeah.
I like that idea. We might need to run with that idea too, because I remember you threw that out to me at one point. The idea of, hey, if somebody is willing to be critiqued, right? Willing to throw your stuff out there to be critiqued. Maybe we'll set something up. John can do all his stuff to kind of gather those images, and then we can kind of run it by you and more on the fly or more thought out if you need to, and kind of go from there. I like the thought there for sure.
And all in a positive sense. And that's the thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Facebook, these great DJ setup groups and all that stuff. I'm in a couple of them, and sometimes I'm just amazed at what gets posted, and I hesitate to even comment because there's the jealousy people that get angry about it, and then there's some of us, we're just trying to be supportive and say, hey, that looks great. I would tweak this. So those groups never seem to be that great because you get that mix. But if there's people, reach out. It's one of the things I learned at DJX is the community is fantastic at supporting each other. If you just reach out to people, you'd be surprised how many people will communicate back and help you, even if it's in your local market. I'd help somebody out locally.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, I do want to tell you about a couple things that are coming up right after this. And Robin was so kind to drop the link in the chat. I'm sure she's going to do it again here for me while I'm talking. Make sure you're heading over to DJNTV.com/chill. That is the chill room. We've got Hanging with Howie coming up at 10 o'clock. You join in, you kind of hang out, hear what they're talking about. And after about 20 minutes or so, then they'll shut off the recording. And then it's just kind of hanging out, maybe talk a little bit more about your lighting, maybe share some ideas. You guys can even critique each other, or whatever it might be that you want to discuss that night. They'll be in there doing that. Coming up tomorrow, then we've got John's Tips in the morning, and then Big Daddy at 9 o'clock is going to have Jimmy Nuzzo. I apologize, Jimmy. I did not know how to say your last name. But anyway, you are joining Big Daddy tomorrow night. That'll be on 9 o'clock, at 9 o'clock right here on the channel. And at 9:30, John's questions from his summer wedding season for Ben. That's right. Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe is returning tomorrow night at 9:30. And then at 10 o'clock, there's the Tuesday Night Music Show recording, again, out at DJNTV.com/chill. And then Wednesday morning, I've got a tip of some sort. I don't know what it is yet. We'll figure that out. I don't know what I've sent John already. But then the Tuesday night show broadcast and the Hanging with Howie broadcast then will be happening Wednesday night. So all those things are out there for you. If you're not getting the emails, head over to DJNTV.com at some point, sign up for them so you know exactly what's going, and you have all the links when you need them. Thank you again, Michael, very much for joining us.
Yes.
Cubbie, thank you very much as well.
Michael.
You guys have yourself a wonderful, wonderful evening. You all stay around. Everybody else, head on over to